What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of The Take On. Let's just get the elephant out of the room. The reason why I'm holding this microphone is because Rio doesn't have the right equipment. The funding weren't there, and now the hosts now have to hold the physical microphone in their hand. So no funny comments, yeah? I just got to do my job, yeah? Got to do my job. Back with Danny Murphy, but also a new guest, Joey from Joey Knight's podcast. How you doing, bro?
Something, mate. Yeah, good.
Good. Danny, we got to hear from Anton first, unfortunately, though, because we have to hear what he has to say. Apparently,
he's going to be happy.
Exactly. We've instructed production to make sure they chop this down to as little as possible. Anton, what have you got to say?
Yes, guys. Sorry I can't be in a take on this week. But hopefully I'll be back next week. What can I say, man? I just want to talk about West Ham, our dealings in this transfer window. We started late, but there seems to be a real strategy behind what it is that we're trying to do. You know, and the players that we're bringing in, the Ward-Prowses, the Kudus and Alvarez. We still got signings to make. I know we're coming towards the end of the transfer window. There's still signings to be made. I think we've got a few more in us. Harry Maguire being in one. Is it on? Is it off? We won't know. This one could go down to the wire. But with the signings that we've made, guys, what do you think? Do you think us Hammers can finish in European places, top 6, top 7? What are you saying? Have a debate. Let me know about it, and I'll get back to you. Come on, you Irons. We are massive.
I mean,
at least he kept it short.
3 games in. He was saying about Moyes out before. You won us the trophy, but it ain't going to work, you know, this, that and the other. But he makes some good points.
He's pleased, and he should be, because the signings are really good. And it's definitely, I mean, Alvarez and Ward-Prowse are definitely signings Moyes had a big influence on, because they shoot the way he wants to play. And obviously, Kudus coming in, is ball carrier, he's got ability. He's going to be a big factor in if West Ham can change their norm. So they've had a brilliant start to the season. I could go over their performance at Brighton. It was brilliant in 2 ways: off the ball and then down, killing Brighton down that right-hand side. It was a really good performance. But what's going to be key for West Ham moving forward now, and I think where the discontentment come last year with the supporters, is being one-dimensional. So what I mean by that is, if you're going to play a pragmatic way and on the break a little bit, not always, but the majority of the time, then when you play the likes of Palace at home, Sheffield United at home, you know, the teams where West Ham supporters think they should be getting after them and being a bit more aggressive, you're going to have to change the mindset. That's
harder, isn't it? Yeah.
Really hard, and you're going to need different types of players who play that way and are more creative and are more on the front foot. So is Moyes, for the first time probably in his managerial career, thinking, I'm trying to bring in players who can make us a bit more progressive? And that transition, because I've been there, obviously when I played under Roy, we were a counter-attack team, really hard to beat. And then on the odd occasion, we did try and play a bit more on the front foot. It was weird, it was hard. Players want to do it, but it's harder to do. So
to flip in and out of that mode.
So it's a great start for Moyes in West Ham, and the new signings settling in so well. But it is going to be certain. So the games coming up against teams similar to them or on paper worse than, it's going to be interesting to see if there's an evolvement of the tactics that then makes the West Ham fans content. Yeah. Because against Chelsea and Brighton, West Ham fans are watching it knowing they're going to have less of the ball and accept it.
And if they lost against them 2 teams, you go, oh, listen.
Not the end of the world.
Exactly.
So it's a great start, and I do believe that although Moyes' fundamentals are set, I do think we will see a bit more an adventurous West Ham in as the season goes on. So we'll wait and see.
Joey, I know obviously there's no love lost between Chelsea and West Ham, so with your neutral hat on, are West Ham better now that they've let go of Rice for that money, but with what they've reinvested into? Are they a better team?
Well, I think the first thing we've got to show ignition for is, if you look at what we maybe perceived West Ham of doing this season, straight away the bar of expectations been raised for everyone. Looking in, I mean, I was saying that there was a good chance that David Moyes might be the first out. It's very, very unique. You could get a team go and win European silverware, no matter what regard you hold it in. They've beat Fiorentina in the final, won European silverware, yet there's still not even that smaller sections of the fan base that are saying maybe the manager's not the right man. So the way they've started this season's been really good, but I would also echo what Danny says in terms of they've come up against teams that are going to be playing against them, are going to be pushing them. So it's all well and good being able to have, I think it was something like 20% possession, like they had against Brighton. They know that what Brighton will do is they'll bait them out. So they'll try and expand the team and then attack them with the counter attacks. But what West Ham were doing was basically calling their bluff and saying, okay, well, we'll play it this way. We won't come to you. We won't give you the space and the pockets to move into. So I think that when you look at players coming into that system, they're going to have to get used to it quickly. You look at Kudus over at Ajax, he was, by all accounts, maybe holding out for a move to a bigger club, and that's why there was a bit of stalling on that deal. He was seeing what was happening. He's going to have to be really systematically cute going into that Moyes system, because if they plan on going into more games this season with the tactics we've seen of them so far, you're not going to have a free role in that system. We
need to see a bigger sample size of games, basically, against different types of opposition.
Yeah, but all positive though.
Yeah,
all positive,
absolutely.
because you need the tools to play a certain way, and it's a bit like when we talk about United, and we'll come on to United, but United's a great example. You know, they want to play a certain way under the manager. You know his philosophy generally, but actually he's going to have to use the personnel he's got. Might at the moment, that's why they're probably looking in. We'll talk about Amrabat coming in possibly as somebody who probably sit alongside Casemiro and tweak the way they're playing a little bit to suit Ten Hag. But the reality is, as the season goes on, most managers have to be able to adapt, probably apart from City, because they only play the one way.
Absolutely, and everyone has to adapt to them. And just lastly on West Ham, that his closing statement was, "Can West Ham get in the European places, top 6?" Is that just him being on cloud 9 as Anton does?
I think he's got a little bit excited. I don't know where he's going. Maybe he's going away. The reality is they've done it before.
Yeah.
So you would be stupid to say no.
By winning the Europa League.
No, but I mean, like they finished.
He wants them to finish like top 6.
Yeah, but I think with the other powerhouses spending what they have and what they are and trying to progress, I think that would be an amazing achievement.
Yeah, I think it's all well and good to say, oh, we get there, but then when you actually go and individually name the clubs and say, okay, do you put us ahead of a Brighton? Do you put us ahead of an Aston Villa? 1 or 2 surprise packages, if you'd even call them that, in maybe Fulham and Brentford. I think it's a massively tough ask, but you know, you have to look into the past to predict the future, and so far they've fared really, really well in them European competition. So there's a route there, but not with a
just finally on that. I think it's we talk on various media platforms about teams and players a lot, mainly the bigger teams and the bigger players for obvious reasons. I think it's worth. I've got to give him a shout out because his performance at the weekend was ridiculous, Antonio.
We did this last time, bigging him up again.
But I'm going to shout him out again because it was a brilliant performance and he absolutely terrorised Brighton. And the little bit of concern is if he does get injured, which he's got history of, who does play up top? I know they've got Ings, but he's a different type, isn't he?
Yeah.
Now, do they have to go and get someone else? That's going to be one little area for West Ham, I think.
Yeah. Well, you felt that, didn't you? Antonio battering ram against Colwill and Disasi and whatnot. We've all kind of felt that Raf at some point with our teams, with Antonio just bashing his way through.
He's good.
And the finish, honestly though, actually, you know what? That's been a bit rude. That wasn't just a battering ram. He dropped the shoulder, mate. He left Webster, just spun him, mate. You know what I mean? So let us know what you guys think. Do you think West Ham can finish in the top 6, or is Anton getting carried away? And are West Ham a better team now they've sold Declan Rice? Let's move on to my team, Manchester United. I've got Joey here from the Chelsea perspective and obviously Danny's expertise as well. Let's talk about some transfers. Manchester United very, very close, or talks have begun from the player side and the club side to loan Marc Cucurella to Manchester United. Luke Shaw potentially out to the best part of this year, maybe up until November, December. Marc Cucurella.
Yep.
Talk to me. Are you trying to fleece us again, trying to get rid of players you don't need? You've done it with Havertz, you've done it with Mount, supposedly. You've done it with a lot of players. Are you not doing this again?
Mate, if we finish this transfer window having shipped out Kai Havertz for big money, finally getting rid of Romelu Lukaku off the books, and loaning, and I think I've read something about getting 5 million for the loan fee for Marc Cucurella. That's madness. But long may it continue. If Man United want to take Cucurella off our hands, then brilliant. And do you know what it is? Until he's not a Chelsea player, I'm really trying as hard as I can to not speak negatively about Cucurella, but we were sold a dud. He is not.
But I'm going to ask you, was that a Chelsea problem? Because I'm looking at it last year, and this is probably the optimistic side of me as a Man United fan, because he's about to come to me, so I've got to start doing this. But if I look at Chelsea last year, Thiago Silva didn't even look good. Like, there was nobody, because it was just an anomaly season. We've got 4 managers. Sterling, look at him now versus last year. Is there not a bit of that, though?
That's fair enough, but I think it's a bad example to choose Thiago Silva, because you might say he didn't look good by his standards. Yeah, you're probably right. He didn't look awful. Cucurella looked really, really bad. I could sit and run out of fingers counting the amount of times that Cucurella's actually cost us 3 points in matches. So fair enough, you could say all the standards dipped, and they did. They definitely did. But for Cucurella to come in and cost you that much, but what I would say is this. It's not a lost hope, because the defence is what you make of it. You see, one man's trash is another man's treasure. West Ham wanted Harry Maguire. Man United don't really value him, but for whatever reason, that move hasn't come to fruition. So I do think that a defence is what you make out of it. Maybe he'll slot into a 10.
Maybe we get the Brighton Cucurella.
Yeah, maybe you might, but
even that was like.
Even then, I'm not sure. I just think Man U's transfer business, and we'll get onto it. There's a lot of head scratchers in there. So.
Danny, can it work?
I think it's one of those where it could work, because he's technically good and he's quick, and he's got some attributes that you need as a fullback. I think his confidence has been shot. He's walked into a huge club at Chelsea where the pressure's not the same as playing at Brighton, and he walked into a club that was struggling, and you can see he's done that. He's dropped. Might do him the world of good, but ultimately, the fee didn't help either, did it? Let's be honest.
No.
It put a huge pressure on him.
He was going to go to City.
Yeah, I think it's better than some of the other options United were talking about. Likes of Alonso, for example, with his lack of pace. I know he's a decent
Reguilon.
Exactly.
Tagliafico.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it could go either way, couldn't it? I think it's get Shaw back as soon as possible.
I mean, to put it into perspective with the Cucurella move, when we speak about the fact he's lacking in confidence, Caicedo, he had one of the worst debuts I've ever seen in a Chelsea shirt. But one thing that you couldn't deny is there is skill there. The match fitness isn't there, the timing, and I would say maybe the confidence in that situation. Marc Cucurella hasn't showed me anything in a lot of times. Watching him live in the stands hasn't shown me anything that suggests that he could be a top level left back. Sorry, but I stand to be corrected, and all the best to him.
Yeah, for me, from a Man United fan's perspective, it's pretty rubbish, because look, essentially, like we were talking off air, Dan, when Luke Shaw's back, Luke Shaw's the main left back, and how does Marc Cucurella? He probably can't believe his luck, because he's using Maatsen instead of him.
Well, don't forget Cucurella can play centre half
and left centre back as well. He can drop in there as well. So there's a few little spaces there. But already as a Man United fan, because we've been put in this position where I thought Erik ten Hag would be able to coach his way out of this, and maybe bring in Alvaro Fernandez, let Dalot do a job. But Luke Shaw out long term. Clearly, Malacia must be out long term. So I'm forced as a United fan to look at what could be some positives, because what I can't do is just have him come in.
Well, rumours about Amrabat. Let's move it on from Cucurella.
Yes. Well, David Ornstein says Man United are working on a deal to sign Sofian Amrabat on loan. Ryan Gravenberch among other options, but Morocco.
So if he brings him in,
target.
Do you see him sitting him alongside Casemiro? Do you think he'll still play 1 and 2?
As it stands now, because the balance has been off, especially next game's Arsenal, then it's Brighton out of that, with Mason Mount being injured. Yeah, he comes straight in next to Casemiro for me.
What, play him next to him? Because that's going against what Ten Hag has done.
But you spoke about it just then in the West Ham segment, and we saw it last year with Ten Hag. He ain't afraid to partially abandon some principles to get by.
Yeah.
Which you do need a little bit of that. You don't want to look. When we were rubbish against Wolves, he didn't just change the whole team against Spurs. Because you don't want to abandon it straight away. It sends the wrong message to the players. However, big game against Arsenal, if he's in by then, you got to start changing stuff. Brighton at home, you got to start changing things and getting Man United ticking, and then you can start.
So you'd be happy with him?
I'd be happy with Amrabat. I would be. I mean, I think I watched him in the World Cup in person, went to all the Morocco games.
I did a few,
He was really, really good, really combative, comfortable, coming to take the ball off the back four. Give him time and space, can hit some passes.
Would you say that, and I do like him.
Yeah.
We're just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
One of the things in the first couple of weeks, United, the legs.
Yeah.
He's good positionally. Yeah. He's a nice footballer, and he loves a tackle and that, and he spots danger, but he's not the quickest.
Don't get about like Fred does.
No.
Wouldn't get about like Fred does.
He hasn't got the legs McTominay or Fred have got, and he hasn't got the legs that Basuma had. He hasn't got the legs of the Wolves midfield. I'm not saying he's slow.
No.
I'm saying he's not what you'd call a super athletic, energetic midfielder.
Yeah.
He's an intelligent, positional, tactical, good on the ball. He'll rat about, but he's not what you're crying out for.
No. We never get what we're crying out for, which is the problem. We were crying out for Frankie de Jong. We ended up Casemiro. Yeah. That tells you Man United's transfer business,
which actually worked out well.
Which worked out well, but that clearly shows you what Ten Hag's thinking was.
The context here is quite key, because if you're talking about slapping a £40 million price tag on his head, then I'm going to go, I don't know. I think there's a lot of uncertainties with that transfer. If he's coming in on loan with the potential to then look at
it only costs 20 million. We can't even afford that.
Yeah. But I do think if he's coming on loan, there's a bit of safety there.
Yeah.
But what these managers will have to do this season is at some point be able to admit if they do make a mistake with bringing certain players in, because you see it with other teams already. It's starting to cost teams where managers aren't sure about dropping sort of signings in that maybe they vouch for, and obviously there has been question marks over a lot of the ones that Ten Hag has brought in for Man United. So because of those question marks, again, I can't lay it on the line with any certainty and go, yeah, he's a definite upgrade on Fred. The thing that would help people maybe put him ahead, someone like a Fred, is although we've seen players in international tournaments come over straight away with big moves and not really light the world up in the Premier League, I think that you look at Fiorentina's run in that European Cup last season and you'd probably put your money on him to come in and have a starting berth.
I don't see him struggling with like the physicality of the league, anything like that.
No, he's calm. He's calm.
What I would say is better than Fred at is on the ball.
He is, yeah.
He's definitely better than Fred on the ball. And a different type. Look, essentially, Erik Ten Hag was allowing Fred some license to arrive late in the box, be on the edge of the box, get a couple of shots.
That's because of one holding.
So Amrabat, like you said, he isn't that. So it'll be interesting to see yet another tactical tweak. Let's get onto your team, Mo Salah, because there's reports coming out today that, you know, the Saudi Arabian team, Al Ittihad, are coming in hard with potentially a bid that's just too good to turn down. Where do you stand on it, Dan? Look, Jurgen Klopp's had his say. I saw his presser before the Newcastle game, said there's nothing. I've got nothing to talk about now because it's a non-story. But if they did come, the answer would be no. Is there a price, considering how long or how short you would have to replace him, the age that he is, what he's achieved at Liverpool versus what it would cost to replace someone like him? Is there a price?
There's always a price, I think, especially for a 31-year-old who's only got 2 years left. I think if you're getting towards 130, 150, you got to start thinking this is something that, you know, anywhere north of 100, all of a sudden it's becoming something you have to entertain. 150 and above, you've got to let him go. There's a couple of aspects to this. One is he knocking on the door to go? Because that's a problem if he is.
Yeah, if he is, yeah.
Any club, especially big clubs like ours, but any club is bigger than a player. And if he doesn't want to be there and he wants to go, you got a bit like Pep's. We were talking about Pep's attitude. If you want to go, you can go, right? Have we got enough cover? Because I don't think we've got time to go and get someone unless they've got someone in mind. And then you're going to be overpaying because everyone knows you've been overpaid. Well, not overpaid, but you've got this ridiculous amount of money burning a hole in your pocket. One thing I do think that if we did go and Gakpo and Jota, Nunes, Diaz were left to fill the void, I think what you would get is a rise in their end product, and they'd all
share the goals out
more because they'd all get more game time. You know, you could play Gakpo on the right, you could play Diaz on the right, you could play Jota on the right. You have got options, and I think all their games would go up because the sense of responsibility would grow on them. A bit like when Gerrard left. Henderson grew into, he blossomed into a leader and more because it was that someone needed to, and that's what would happen. But it definitely makes Liverpool worse.
Yeah,
you can't. The thing that Mo Salah gives you, even when he's playing badly, is goals. So reliable.
Or an assist.
So reliable.
Yeah.
So it's a negative for Liverpool if he leaves, even if they brought someone in.
It's not going to be the same caliber.
Not going to be the same caliber unless they can sneak Mbappe out of PSG.
But
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
So in answer to your question, I think it could happen. But I hope it doesn't.
Do you think he's got anything left to offer? Like, as in, not left to offer, that's the wrong question. What do you think his motivation will be? Like, I've clocked the level, I've won everything at Liverpool. His desire to keep going and winning more, like Danny spoke about, he can keep going easy.
If he was going to want out, now's the time. So he's got a really lucrative deal on the table. They are very much in a rebuild. Like at the start of the season, I was saying that maybe Liverpool will be the ones that push Man City the closest this year. But now, you know, it's got underway. I'm not really seeing it that way. And I do think it will be a real rebuilding process for them. But what I would say is he's got a lot to offer in terms of numbers. You've got Salah on the pitch. He guarantees you numbers, even in a season like last year, where maybe a few of us from the outside looking in sort of perceived him to not do that much. But if he does move, and if you can get anywhere close to 100 million for Mo Salah, it really ain't the end of the world. Because when you look at prominent players moving on, even from Liverpool, you look at when Coutinho left, life went on. You know, you look at when Hazard left Chelsea, life went on. We still competed. Suarez, you could go with so many huge players leaving their clubs. Life does go on. Torres, and again, when we talk about Liverpool, we say about, okay, but would they have the time to reinvest it? Could they? I don't think they need to reinvest it.
Even get to January, sitting on that money, you'll be all right. Yeah.
I think long term they would have to find a really good replacement, just because they're going to be able to be back in the Champions League, and you can't rely on 4. You need 5. I think there's you make some good points. I think the one thing with Salah, and the hope for me is why he'll stay, even if it's another year, is because he's so fit and so in trim. He lives life right. We know that. He's 31. He's probably got at least 3 or 4 years being able to play top class football. Yeah. If he goes there, you know, all right, he might win some, but you're not winning some. Yeah. Let's be honest.
I think this all depends on Mo Salah as well. Like, what
That's
does
what
he want?
At the beginning.
Yeah, because if he bashes down the door and says, "Listen, I've had a chat with
I want it."
Do you know what? I actually have done everything here, and I didn't think I'll be in this position, but I am. Let me go.
Do you not think though some of it, something in him might be thinking, if I stay another couple of years, I could win another European Cup or Champions League, I could win another Prem. Or did you think he doesn't believe that?
No, that's what comes down to what's going on with this rebuild, what it's looking like in-house at Liverpool, the feeling amongst them.
Feeling's good.
I mean, you wouldn't argue against it, because look at how they've started this year, considering what's gone on. So yeah, very interesting to see that. Let us know about Mo Salah. Do you think that there is a price on his head, like Danny says? Every player has a price, or do you think he should stay because Liverpool just simply cannot afford to lose him? Just really quickly before we get onto your team in the terms of how they're playing, just Matheus Nunes. I want to talk about that really, really quickly. He's digging his heels in, and I think you were saying Gary O'Neill said today that he's not training with a group for a decision of his own, i.e., you know, refusing to be part of it, give me my move sort of thing. From your perspective, you know, you've played the game. One, what's your experience of, you know, making sure you get a move or seeing others do it, and have you ever done that?
Well, there's lots of factors involved, and every individual case is a little bit different. I think it's acceptable sometimes, understandable is the word, understandable that players sometimes in the initial stages of interest of a big move or any move, and they want to do it, kicking up. Because emotion kicks in and desperation. And you do and sometimes say stupid things. You need good people around you to try and navigate you through it in a mature way that benefits everyone. Now, that with hindsight, that looks like a good agent or a good friend with you, having conversations with the hierarchy at the club, communicating things clearly and strongly what you want to achieve, you know, but that's difficult in the moment, and especially when you're a young guy and you're being advised, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. So I don't agree with him going on strike and not training and playing. I think you should always offer yourself up to train and play. I had a situation where when I was at Charlton trying to go to Tottenham, it was a long story, but basically what had happened is me and Curbs had fallen out based on a lack of communication that was his side, not mine. I was trying to sort out a problem with him that he'd created and trying to make a move and a deal with me involved that he didn't tell me about. I then found myself out the squad and training with the kids, even though
He decided that.
Yeah. Then when that fell through, and the Tottenham deal came up in the second to last day of the window, I then made it clear that I wanted it to happen based on the way he treated me.
Yeah, because you was already in there. He'd already put you with the kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And integrate me back into the team wasn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure I'd have had the kahunas to back it up and actually not play, even though I said I wasn't going to.
Oh, so you give it all I ain't coming back. I ain't playing.
Luckily I had a good agent. The logic football-wise was that Tottenham were looking like search for Champions League. It was another opportunity for me to play in Europe. But Curbs was saying no, it wasn't going to happen. So what I did is I made some silly threats, but backed it up with the financial implications to the club if I didn't play from then till the summer.
Oh.
And the chairman saw the logic and believed I would do what I said I was going to do.
So it's
I
a
got
bit
the
of
move.
bluffing with a bit of fact.
So it's a bit of bluffing.
Fascinated, the players.
And the reality is, at the time I said it, I meant it. I wouldn't, if I could grab hold of me now, back then, I'd do it differently.
Yeah.
And that's, forget Curbs, anyone else. I don't think it's the right way to do it. But it got me what I wanted. And actually, would I, if the window had come and gone and I was still there, would I have wanted to spend the next, 4 or 5 months not playing? No, I'd have probably just played.
Yeah.
Because it's not me. You have to be a really strong person to follow that
To
through.
just train, knowing you're just riding it out.
Yeah. And also, the other thing is, for this lad at Wolves, going back to the original reason we're talking about it, is Nunes, because he's not on 250 grand a week and a superstar there. It's not like Wolves are going to suffer that much if he does. He's a good player, I like him a lot. He's a top player, actually. And they haven't got better than him. But if the worst case scenario comes and he's an absolute negative influence around the place, nearly swore then, they can just bin him. He's not as important as maybe he thinks he is, or even though he's a top player. So they've got to find a way. And the only way is City to bid more.
From a fan's perspective, so that's interesting to hear that from what he's been through, that Danny has. But we're emotive and we want loyalty from players, especially if we put you on. Matheus Nunes has come in, only been there a year. And if
Not
you're a Wolves
set
fan,
the world alight by any way.
Exactly, he hasn't set the world alight. So you're looking for this year from him. Let's go. But we get that bitter taste where it's, hang on a minute, we paid money for you. How dare you make yourself unavailable when we need you? And we've even given you the platform to shine in this league.
I think it's hard in football to not contradict yourself. When you talk about football all the time, I contradict myself day in, day out. But what I would say, to try and not contradict myself, do you know how many times, especially with my club Chelsea, seeing as we're signing players 24/7, the amount of times I've sat there and gone, right, it's on the player now. He needs to help us out here. He needs to drag his heels. He needs to kick up a fuss. And I was saying it even recently about Moyes Caicedo.
When to get them in. Oh, right.
The player needs to do it sometimes. The player needs to kick up a fuss sometimes. So I would be a massive hypocrite to sit here now and go, shouldn't be doing that. Because I think that if it was my club and I was a Man City fan, I'd say, come on, and you help us out here a little bit.
It's a great point.
With Wolves themselves, I had a few Wolves fans go back at me because I had said that they are under quite a lot of pressure with FFP. What do I know? I don't know anything about finance.
You do read that, though.
But you read that, so to make the assumption would be right. And because of that assumption, I think that if the player carries on going the way he is, and with those restraints of FFP that they're under, Wolves have lost better players than Nunes. So it's one of them to keep an eye on. But no, I wouldn't feel massively adverse. It's always worse if it's your player. So if you're a Wolves supporter, you're probably livid. You're probably thinking, without us giving you the platform, no one even knows who you are, because there's players in the Portuguese league and wherever else that are just as deserving, but we've given you the platform. So I can see why there'd be bad blood on both sides. But me personally, I think if a player needs to do that to get a move, it doesn't always work though. Gerrard did it at Liverpool. It didn't happen. The most famous one's obviously Peter on them wingy, isn't it?
Turning
in the car
up,
park.
mate, when we're meant to be there,
yeah, and he still hasn't lived that down. So it can come back to bite you.
The recent one, Nonto at Leeds did it, and then he didn't go on streets. He said, I'm not. Well, he did go. He said,
he was training away, Daniel Farke said.
And then, he said sorry. He's obviously had some people around him talk to him, and the manager's obviously sat him down. And the logic is really that playing football, keeping yourself fit and doing what you love and keeping on top of things is going to be beneficial to you moving forward, whatever happens. And the reality is that his position at Wolves isn't strong enough for them to be able to ransom. So the FFP thing is a fair point, but they've actually sold enough now. So the reality,
turned down 47 million.
Well, they don't need it.
Because they're saying that don't meet our valuation. So give us. We saw what you was ready to pay for Paquetá, by the way.
Yeah.
So we'll have a bit of that.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, I think they'll get to 55, 60 and probably
He'll go,
take
won't
it.
he?
Yeah.
He'll go.
He's a good player.
He is. I saw.
And and unfortunately, the score with Pep, he's going to be in another year, he's going to be much better.
Yeah. Which he definitely will be. Yeah, I do see it from both sides. Let's get into some of the action from this past weekend. Your boys, I mean, Darwin Nunes, he's had a lot of critics. When's he going to settle down? He's a bit rash. He makes good runs, but not a good finisher, etc., etc. Off the bench to score 2 really good goals and get a tough win from 1-0 down with 10 men. Liverpool have not lost to Newcastle since December 2015. And with this new Newcastle, not many people want to go St James's Park. So to come through a win from that position and being down to 10 men so early.
Well, it's an incredible win, isn't it? Because nobody really expected, including me, when they went down to 10 for them to get anything out of it, because Newcastle good side. They did have some chances. You've got to ride your luck.
Yeah.
Allison made a couple of wonders, what keeper he is, by the way. But it's interesting with Darwin Nunes because I've said, and you probably remember when we were talking about him, I think he should start him and give him a run.
Yeah, you did.
So last season he played the game. A lot of the games he did played off the left. He's not a winger. He's a forward. You can see it in him. He loves running in behind. He's a bit raw. He's touched sometimes, but he loves running in behind. He's strong. He can leap. He's got 2 good feet. I always look at it like this, right? And I heard Gary Neville talking about this the other day. So it was like, not that I agree with everything Gary says, but he made a great point that I was thinking, and I've said before about him. If you look at the Liverpool forward line, and you're a centre half, anyone playing centre forward but him, you go, take that. Mm-hmm. And that's what Nev said.
Yeah.
If he's on the sheet, you're going, he's going to run that way. He's going to jump. He's going to...
He put it back nasty as well.
And do you know what he is? And I love about him? He keeps getting in there even when he's missing.
Yeah.
And last year, I think he hit the woodwork more than any other player.
Yeah, he was unlucky.
He still scored. He still scored a decent amount, And, which I don't like this stat, but I'm going to use it to... Sometimes you use things when you don't, you don't believe in them.
But go your way.
Apparently, someone said to me, his XG was one of the highest.
Oh, you hate the XG.
I do.
Don't do that.
It. But no, I was joking. He is, for me now, in a position where he's saying to the manager, let me go. Let me play.
Let me be free.
Put me up top. Yeah. Got great creativity now around. So Bosley, McAllister, you got all these other forward, Diaz, Gapco, Jota, Salah. Give him 10 games.
Yeah. And whether he plays, like Anton was saying last week, I know it was with Sancho, but whether he plays good or rubbish, give him 10 games.
Leave him.
Yeah.
I mean, bring him off 20 minutes to go, 50 minutes to go. Start him. He's going to be tough.
How do you see it for Liverpool? I mean, defensively, still making errors. Trent... He was lucky to stay on the pitch, but I think the ref, they absolutely done him over because they should have given a foul. And I think they've bottled not giving him the second yellow because he's probably thought.
But more important, let me ask you two, because sometimes hard being, and I read Rio's piece on Trent, I thought it was really good, quite strong. Not a lot of people say it, but do you agree with it?
What did he say?
You should be reading Rio's pieces, come on.
Mate, you won't even give me a mic stand. I ain't reading it until I get a mic stand.
Basically, he was saying that the worry he's got for Trent is that the same things keep happening, and he doesn't see this stealing him to go, Gordon, he's not going to beat me today.
Yeah.
It's like he just plays more thinking about attacking, and he never goes on the pitch thinking, I'm not getting done.
I just don't think Trent is a natural defender where you're kind of, and I know this sounds a bit excessive, but you're born with that innate desire to defend. This guy's not going to get past me.
Rio was saying that. He didn't have that innate desire to defend, Rio. He learned it. Because he used to be, I just want to show off.
But he doesn't even have the willingness to learn that too. Because I think what it is with Trent as well, because he excels so much in the offensive side of the game, like taking the mick excels. Like he's unbelievable on the ball. Some of the passes he sees. Yeah. And I think that he's always been in a system in his Liverpool career that has sheltered his deficiencies in defence. And now the cream has risen to the top, and now he has to show a bit and say, we're going through a transition period. That protection's not always there.
I thought it was massively surprising when I saw not the exact personnel, but the type of players that Liverpool were going for in the transfer market. Because when I look at those last 10 games of last season, it was like the penny dropping. It was the epiphany. I was like, right, Trent's a midfielder. This is what it is. And I remember like when Harry Redknapp moved Gareth Bale up from left back to almost left wing, and he ended up coming further forward. When he moved in there, it was that epiphany moment. I'm like, that's where he plays, and that's why he's so highly regarded. And a lot of the time, I'd look at the things Trent does offensively, but I'd think, yeah, that's brilliant, but you're playing at right back. So, you know, that's like me praising a centre back of scoring headers from a corner or whatever. How does it work? When I saw him move there, and I saw Southgate play him there for England, I thought, okay, that's it now. Then they carried on bringing midfield reinforcement in, and they've not addressed that right back area. And it's not as simple as going, oh, well, you play Trent defensive midfield. Well, no, we're moving him from right back because he's not that good defensively. So you don't then put him in a CDM role. So I think Trent's best position is in that midfield. However, until they address either the right back, or look, you could look at a change of formation that might, that might have him having a bit more of a free role. But yeah, we look at free roles on pitches, and although it's sort of a dying thing in today's game, you definitely don't have one as your right back.
You can't have a free role for anyone anymore.
No.
The thing is with Trent, and you're right, he either changes position, or the manager has decided, I know he's never going to be brilliant at one-on-ones, and I know he's going to cost us on occasion, but the good outweighs the bad.
Speaking about maybe overthinking or evolution of a team, Michail Arteta, Arsenal drew 2-2 to Fulham. I just want to ask a simple question, actually. We'll keep this quick and try and rattle through quite a few teams, actually, in this little period here. Is Havertz working, or is he going to work? And is Arteta overthinking things? You know, Partey playing at right back, coming into midfield, all of this stuff.
It's $1 million question, isn't it? Because I don't think there's anyone with any experience or knowledge of the game that can tell you the answer to, is Kai Havertz going to work? All I can do is give you an insight of someone who's sat willing and really eager for it to work for Kai Havertz for a long time. He's gone now. I don't really care whether it works or not. But Kai Havertz is one of those players that I think if you go back maybe 15 years ago, he's a brilliant player, and he's a player that most teams can use. But I feel like maybe the second striker role, and I'm not comparing him to a Bergkamp, but that sort of role, I don't think that's there anymore. So then you're left with someone who people will say, yeah, he's a generational talent and whatnot. But again, even when Mesut Ozil was playing, the whole sort of walking around looking disinterested was dying off then, you know? So you look back at players like Berbatov. Kai Havertz is not Dimitar Berbatov, and he's not Mesut Ozil. He's not that sort of player. So I think that one of the dilemmas that Michail Arteta is going to have to sort of battle it out with is going to be one that's imminent, and that is, when are you going to stop playing Partey at right back? You put Ben White back to that right back position. You bring Gabriel back into the team. Partey comes into the midfield free, and then that team probably is the sort of team that goes and grinds out a result over Fulham. And I'm not blaming them dropping points against Fulham on Kai Havertz, but it's a valid point. It's a point that needs to be looked at. Was Havertz the right signing to bring in for the amount of money they spent on it? For me,
instead of Xhaka.
And do you know what? I'll leave it on this as well. There's a very telling thing here, right? If Chelsea let go a player who scored the winning goal in a Champions League final to win only the second European Cup in the club's history, and the fans sort of go, then you probably have got your answer as to what sort of player and how important that player is to Chelsea.
Versus the genius of Arteta, who thinks, no, I can do that, I can change that, that can work for me.
Well, I agree with a lot. I mean, Ben White's link up with Saka down the right, why spoil that? There's definitely something going on with Gabriel. Whether he's asked to go Saudi, whether 100%. Whether he's to have a fallout with him, because why would he be left out? Because he put Kivior in, he's put Tommy Asu in.
Everyone but.
And actually, when he came on at Palace, he looked strong. He made a difference, you know, especially down to 10. So that's a weird one. I think, stick Partey back in. We've let him and Rice can swap who goes and just play Odegaard and use Havertz when they've got Champions League football now. Use Odegaard and Havertz in that nice 10 role. As and when, swap them about a bit. Give Saka the odd rest. Play Havertz on the right. Play Odegaard on the right. Mix it up. Just don't try and play a system that they haven't played before. But on the flip side of that, I would say this. Arteta is desperately trying to make this Arsenal team better and compete with Man City. That's what he wants. He's not trying to stay the same.
But in doing that, is he sometimes...
Maybe, but sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, right? So if you trust in Arteta for so long last season, and if you trust in the process, which they say they do, Arsenal fans, then let him do his tweaking. Let him integrate these new players into this system or this new system, whatever he's trying to do. We've had 3 games. And the only reason they haven't got maximum points is because they couldn't defend a set play late in the game. Because they dominated Fulham for a long period. Let's make no bones about it. And 9 out of 10 they'd have beat them. They had the chances. They dominate the game. Saka gives a through ball to Pereira and misses it. And then Fulham did okay, don't get me wrong. But they scored on a set play that bounced in the box in the last few. Come on. So trust in him. Yes, we won the game. We can question him. We can question it, yeah. And I agree with you what you're saying, by the way. Some of it seems illogical. But he's got plans. He's not trying to make them worse. You've got to
let the time pass as well. Yeah, it's 3 games.
Well, for example, I was at the Palace game and Nketiah was superb.
Yeah. Well, he didn't even start.
Didn't start the next
What's going on then?
Yeah.
So these are valid things where Arsenal fans go, hang on a minute.
But every supporter is doing it with their manager right now, apart from City. Even a City fan, right? If they'd have gone 1-1 at Sheffield United and Rodri didn't score, why is Foden on the bench after that man of the match? I know you said he might have been ill. Yeah. But there's always these questions we have about managers.
Yeah.
You know, why is he playing and him not playing?
It's exactly what you said there about teams not getting the results as well, because when everything's rosy and going well for a team, we don't ask the question. No one says, hold on, you brought Calvin Phillips in for how much? And he's not getting a look in. No one cares. No one cares. Treble winners.
Exactly.
So it's only when you get a team drop a couple of points, you want to shine the magnifying glass on it. And that's why I would say it's not a thing of me saying, no, Kai Havertz is rubbish. But all that being said, we say so much. When you find that position for him, my sort of question would be, okay, but what are you then basing that when we find, or Arteta finds his position, why are you then assuming it's a dead cert that he goes on to be a
it might not be,
player?
But give it a chance.
Yeah. Lastly, just really quickly, Spurs. I just want to say this. Out of the Carabao Cup already. And I thought the whole point of this Ange project, who's a very likeable character, by the way, done fantastically well in the first few games that he's done. He's changed the style. He's changed this. He's changed that. But we're seeing the same old Tottenham do the same old things and turn their noses up at cups. How on earth can Spurs, in the position that they've been in, not see it as a matter of importance to even just be in it? And they wasn't playing sort of, a team lower down the league. You're playing against Fulham, away from home, good side. Just come off the back of a decent draw to Arsenal. I know, they made changes to their team as well. However, I just think that the naivety... for Spurs to just... Why are they doing that, Dan?
I'll give you a quick my view on it.
What's going on?
I think there's so many positives, I like the way they're playing. It's much better on the eye. He's bringing creative players into the team. I think they're going to have a really exciting season. They'll lose some games because they're playing high risk, but it's much better and there's lots of positives. But I think he misread this one. I think he'll be waking up today thinking, I shouldn't have done it. Because he left out the 2 main creative players, Basuma and Maddison. I know he had Mads on the bench and that, but this is Fulham away and they did play a strong team. And he missed a trick here because it keeps momentum going. They don't have to worry about Europe. The fans, 5,000 Tottenham fans there, by the way.
It's a London derby, mate.
He made 9 changes. No other Premier League made more.
Why?
Well,
how?
What he said was that because he's not in Europe, how's he going to get to see the players if he doesn't give them a game? My point on that is, not one of those players he played hasn't played God knows how many games for Tottenham
and he don't want
him. Nobody can watch him on video all the games last season.
He don't want Højbjerg. He's trying to send him to Man United, mate.
He knows what Højbjerg and Skip can do, can't do. He knows what Davinson Sanchez can do, so he didn't need to see him.
Ben Davis,
he's misjudged it massively.
He's misjudged it.
I think that if I look from a Chelsea fan's perspective, it's only last season that we didn't win anything for. I would absolutely love a League Cup this season. Like, I'd love a League Cup. So if that's me saying it, coming from a team who quite recently have won Champions League,
exactly.
What must a Spurs fan be thinking right now of like how we, again, season in, season out, not putting importance on this competition? And we can say the thing about, not getting a chance to try the players out. Okay, but you are on a training ground with them. Like Danny said, you can look back at old footage. And also, the fact that you're not in any sort of European competition this season, there's straight away a guaranteed 6 games ruled out. Probably more. If you're Chelsea, it's a guaranteed probably 10 if you look at recent history. And also the time that it takes to travel and whatnot. I just think that if I was a Spurs fan, I want a close to full strength squad in this game.
3 or 4. Exactly. 3 or 4.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, mate,
3 or 4 changes.
Listen, we're the 3rd game into the season and there's an international break coming up.
Yeah.
What on earth do you think? Players aren't tired, don't give me that. Nothing to do with that. He's just come off a pre-season.
He's thought that the lads are going to go.
Ridiculous.
I tell you what, he'll be looking at some of them players who maybe were on the fence in his head, and thinking I'll keep him or not keep. And now he's like,
should have made.
I mean, they didn't lose
before.
the game. They lost on pens. So
But
let's
still,
put it in perspective.
but Fulham, to be fair, dominated. They probably should have won it in 90. If I'm honest.
Yeah, should have.
So I'm like,
Big Ange has lost a bit of credit. Well, no, that's the wrong word. He's not lost a bit of credit because a lot of Tottenham fans, all Tottenham fans are happy with him. What I meant, he's lost an opportunity to gain even more credit than he's got. Does that make sense? He's lost an opportunity.
I think he has.
To go next, like another win, another momentum.
You come from Celtic. You come from Celtic where they win. Yeah. He's supposed to play front foot, attacking, want to change the complexity at Spurs, change the trajectory of the club. This is doing exactly the same thing. They've always done this. So he's done this. He's done the same as every single manager before him, which is bottle the cup games on purpose. By the way.
I think it's a mistake he's going to have to live with and not do again.
Spurs, you know what I mean? Excited beating Man United.
You seem happy they've gone out.
Do you know why?
You are, aren't you?
Because
I can sense the happiness.
It's just typical Spurs. You're still Spurs. Still Spurs, mate. Sorry.
Nah, they're better.
They are better, but when it comes to cups and winning stuff.
The positive is, if you look at the lineup, it was heavily changed.
Yeah.
The Spurs fans are going to be able to look at it and go, okay, but it wasn't our first choice team. So maybe when the personnel changes, the results will go back to what they've been seeing so far. But yeah, it's not a good sign, is it?
It's not. Listen, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining us. Listen, mate, thanks for joining us. You've been an absolute pleasure today.
Much, mate.
Good stuff, Joey.
That.
Good stuff. And to you, Dan, as always. Don't need to dap you up, but I will. I'll see you next week, mate. Smash a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. And we'll see you all again, same time, same place next week. Peace.